All right, sisters. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to the Stiletto Talks podcast. My name is Paula Johnson Hutchinson, and our primary purpose at the Stiletto Talks is to create collaborative safe spaces for women of color. That's who we are, and we're not changing. That's right. All right. So today, I am excited. Not only is it her birthday, not only is she just downright fabulous, not only is she one of the tiniest little powerhouses you will ever meet, she will get you together with love and a vocabulary that exceeds mine. And y'all know that takes a lot. I am so excited to introduce someone who is unapologetic in her truth and in telling her story. And if you've been on, listen to many of our podcasts before, you know that owning our truth and being authentic in who we are as of today. I'm not talking about way back when you was a little girl, your little bows. I'm talking about as of today, who you are as of today through your lived experience, through your triumphs and your failures. All of that makes us who we are, and that it's okay to live in your truth. And yes, there's light on the other side, and we have none other than Dr. V to let us have it. So, welcome, 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 Dr. V. Will you please show your love to us and tell us a little bit about who you are before we get into the questions?
I mean, with that introduction, can I come back every day, birthday or not? Thank you so much for that.
And you can,
Um,
and you can.
I am Dr. V. Boykin, and I emphasize doctor because I'm also going to tell you that I'm a former single mom, stripper, and felon. So I got 4 degrees in my 40s, and now it's very important to me to advocate personally and professionally for marginalized communities and specifically Black women because we don't always know what to say, when to say it, what's right, what's not right, and just how to negotiate a joy in our life. So that's the area in what I sit. I've also written 2 books, and they have tips and truths in it to help with that navigation because it is not easy in these streets.
It's not. Now I'm telling y'all now, between the two of us and we get together, there may be a little profanity lacement, placement in here, but we get together. We are two type A women that
Yeah.
serve in different areas of advocacy together. And what we will say is, we promise you, it's coming from an auntie space of love. So please just take it from an auntie space of love. Do not clutch your pearls. Just listen up. I promise you what we got to say is so important. And especially in this current climate and season, we don't have to go no further. Dr. V, you just talked about gaining all of your degrees in your 40s, and I did the same. And I love that when you say that, I'm sure everybody then tunes in and wants to know your story. And of course, you are in leadership. So my question to you would be, you're a storyteller, you're a leader, but you're also a storyteller. So how has that helped you in leadership?
I think one of the things that I recognized is that every influential person you can think of, that I can think of, that has a lot of impact and also is able to create change tells a story. Now, I am
Mhm.
not at all suggesting I am Gandhi or Martin Luther King or God's son himself or any of those people, but what I am suggesting is that I'm able to see a repetitive pattern. And people tell stories because of how the brain interacts with them. When you have that beginning, middle, and end, that hero's journey, when you are simply stripped bare and you share the truth, people are able to connect. And for me, I am convinced that we are all on this planet to have experiences. It's the only thing that makes sense to me, good, bad, indifferent. It's the experience. And the only reason it makes sense to go through something challenging or difficult is to share that experience. And the most effective way to share that experience is to tell the truth. And that is the story. When you were told to fix your face and watch your tone, when you learn those hard lessons and simple truths, go back and share that. Best case scenario, somebody doesn't have to touch the hot stove I touched. Worst case scenario, somebody knows they're not alone when they touch that stove.
See, I done told y'all. I already told you. She's gonna drop it. And to what you just said, it can be hard sometimes for us to define our truth because we go through different processes. First, we can't believe we're in a situation. we're
Mm-hmm.
stunned. It's us because we're supposed to be intelligent, right? We're not supposed to get caught down bad, if you will, in certain situations. And then we have our children often, or we have other loved ones that are depending on us. So now we got to tighten up, regardless of how we feel, because we have other people depending on us. And so when it's time to take I flip the script to where our story gives us power and not makes us weak, what would you say for you was your defining moment that you decided, you know what, I'm gonna take my story gonna be power. You all not about to finna play with me in my story.
I, I'm going to tell the truth again because that's what I do. Because it works out so much better than when you tell that made up story. I was 48 years old. I would love to say I've always told the truth and stood in my power. That's not true. I'd also like to say that the power came exclusively from within me. That would not be true also. I had been on Plenty of Fish dating. I had been married three times, four times. How many times? Three. I got to count. Geography and math. I'll tell y'all. But I had been married multiple times, and here I was, divorced again, and on the dating site, and there was this guy that I liked. And so I'm sitting on his couch maybe 2 weeks in, and I said, "Hey, I got to tell you something." And he said, "What is it?" And I'm looking at this man, former police officer, former military, never had a drink in his life. I'm like, oh gosh. I used to be a stripper. And he said, "Oh, just curious, how long ago?" I said, "About 20 years." He said, "Oh, okay." I said, "There's something else." And he's like, "Okay, what is it?" And I said, "I'm a felon." He said, "Oh, okay. How long ago?" I said, "About 20 years." He said, "Okay, what do you want for dinner?" That moment,
Okay.
that moment, that moment, because I had been married three, four times, and I should stop and count them, but they're so irrelevant. And I had,
Exactly. That's how I be. I'm not doing it.
but I had hidden that story in a relationship for 10 years, and that story had been a dirty little secret. That story had been screamed at me whenever he drank too much. So to get that reaction from just that full expression of Black love and joy and acceptance and understanding, I was like, well, if he can hear it and he can still see my value and worth, it's time for me to stop being afraid that somebody at work is going to Google me. That's what needs to happen. And so from that point on, I was like, from this place, I can tell my truth. And so what I say is truth comes at a cost, so do lies. Honesty comes at a cost, so does dishonesty. I'd much rather pay the price to walk as I am than
Hmm.
pay the toll of hiding it.
Now look, I just put these lashes on. Don't have me on here crying. I really just glued these on before we got on here. Don't start.
They look
But
good, girl.
anyway, like for real. So that's a place of empowerment. First of all, shout out to our brother-in-law baby, okay?
Yes,
Cuz I'm loving it. What's for dinner? And that part, very grown, very demure, very grown.
yes.
And so especially for our younger sisters, um Stiletto Talk started out with probably more 35 and up, but we do see that surgence of young girls, younger ladies wanting to be amongst the aunties, honey, and trying to get the tea on how to do this life, especially if they have not always navigated the space with that support. And so, what many are starting to experience is what many of us have already been through, which you talked about: silence in places of power. We
Mm-hmm.
feel like we're safe if we don't tell our story. But
Mm-hmm.
quiet as it's kept, they'll fire you just cause.
They sure will.
Especially if you live where Dr. V and I live, it's just an at will state. They let that be known out the gate. So at will, they can walk you out. They can lock your computer. You are not ever safe. It is at will.
Yep.
At will they can keep you, and at will they can let you go. So the power we often think we have, you don't. So how do we support women that may feel silenced? Or when you tell your stories and your leadership trainings, how are you walking, especially our younger sisters, through taking those spaces, because they may be going through those moments where what we have gone through is happening to them now. They're in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about the empowerment piece that we can all do to help support them and walk them through that, because they got to battle social media and all the things.
Yeah. I'm so glad my 20s and 30s weren't recorded like that. And I'm so glad I didn't have an outlet, because who knows what I with less wisdom than I have now. The first thing I say is it is okay if you cannot afford to speak up. It is okay. There are times, look, I've been a single mom. I have not been able to get a job at a gas station, right? Had to get a job picking up dog poop with those little thin grocery bags around my hand because the man wouldn't buy a pooper scooper. Like, if you cannot afford to lose your job, don't act in a way that may cause you to lose your job. That's number one. But number two, as somebody that was recently fired while on protected FMLA leave, as somebody that has been targeted, or what felt like I was being targeted after reporting that we had, a lack of leadership of Black people, a lack of promotions for Black people. As popular as you are, you can still be a target. And as silent as you are, you can still be a target. And what I want everyone to do whenever you start a job, or if you're already in a job, is get yourself a notebook and write down the things that are like, I don't know if that's okay or not, with a date, and write it down. Start documenting. And then the other thing I would say is, everybody says don't go to HR. HR is not your friend. HR is not your friend, but they are critical should you ever want to take legal action. So you need to learn what to say and how to say it. But not talking to HR, that's not the move. Talking to HR like they are an extension of a legal entity that is documenting everything you're saying. Now, that's the move. So you want to say things like, I feel like I'm being targeted. I feel like I'm being treated differently than those that are similarly situated. This is not legal advice. You want to say things like, I am noticing a pattern of treatment towards me that feels retaliatory. You need to educate yourself on what to say. But all of that, to boil down, is do what you can afford, document what you can't, and wait for your time to make a strategic move. And there are recourses. But just because they say don't ever talk to HR, that's not true. You need to understand your workplace rights. And that means you're going to have to do some reading. You're going to have to do some reading.
I love that you talked about, you gave them 3 points, three things that you need to do. Because sometimes when we look on social media and they got all these quick memes and all this other stuff, some of this stuff is for entertainment.
Yes.
This is not real life. And even if someone they got a resolution because of maybe an action, that may be a one offer. There may not be a consistent pattern. And we
Mhm.
all know that sometimes, especially in this climate today, it can be seen, everybody can see it, and
Yes.
people will still say it's not so.
That's right.
Kind of like Zerl Neil Hurston said, that they'll kill you and say you enjoyed it. Right.
That's right.
So I love the fact that you talked about it as a place of reclaiming their tool, their voice, their tool of voice and agency, knowing who you are as a person and what you got to lose, and not feeling like you got a rep for the entire culture, because
Correct.
that's another issue. Um, Share with me quickly about. I know you talked about some instances that you have experienced, but talk with us a little bit about that, when it, especially for those who feel like you just got to say something because you feel like this is your time to rep your Blackness, when you know good and well your light bill is due. You
That's right.
know you don't have no boo to help you pay no
That's
bills,
right.
or you got boo and boo don't have a job right now. You
Right.
know that we are being targeted. We have a higher percentage of Black women who currently do not have employment or being removed out of certain spaces. A lot of government spaces, a lot of top level, top tier jobs. So we know this already, but now you wants to get online and do your little internet typing and flash out at these people job. Talk a little bit about, again, how you can maintain yourself. I know you talked about the documenting, but
Yes.
what are some in the moment things that they can do so they just don't crash out? And then they got the, all they have is social media. All you have is your likes. Because that also gets really stressful for them when they realize that's all you got now to no job.
Look, the record button on your phone is your friend. The post now button is not. So you can get things out and record them, and that can be your documentation. But not everything needs to be shared with everybody, especially if you don't know your rights. Now, I am talking as somebody who is now 52 years old. I
Mhm.
can afford to take a stand. I have credibility, I have social capital, you have, a black man that supports me. It doesn't mean it's not going to be easy, it's not hard when I lose my job because I've reported something. And it doesn't mean even if you're right that anyone else will say it. It may take years to go from complaint to final adjudicated action. Years, y'all. So you have to be prepared for that and you have to have an exit strategy. You have to have all of these things. But one of the things that I tend to do when someone is talking to me crazy in the workplace is I say a couple different phrases because that is going to give me a minute to collect myself. Tell me more about that and then be silent. Let them prove how ridiculous it is. Because when someone is being ridiculous, it's really hard to be angry at a fool.
Mhm.
Somebody that's pretending, cosplaying intelligence, you can get kind of frustrated with them. But a truly foolish person, all you can do is pity them. How do you mean? How do you mean is another phrase I like because I know how I'm taking it, but how do you mean? How far down the rabbit hole of stupidity will you go? Again, harder to be mad at a foolish person. But all of this is all for your documentation. And walk me through your thought process. Because those three generic statements you can say at any time, no matter the context, and it will allow the person to reveal what they actually mean. Because I can be reactive. You can say this, and I'm like, did you just say what I think you said? And actually, they didn't say that. So there are times they didn't mean it. That 5% of the time that's still valid.
Mhm.
But there are times when they did mean it, and let them talk themselves in further and further down the hole. Because the more that you can say those three phrases and interchange them, the more they will hit rock bottom, look up, and realize they're dumb. They're acting dumb. They're acting stupid. They're saying something they didn't mean. And then you just get to enjoy them trying to apologize and back their way out of it. So when I hear those micro, macro, racist, biased, um, ridiculous things in the workplace, I'm quick with the walk me through how you got there. I'm sorry, how do you mean? Can you tell me more about that? And this is what them walk on through. I also teach leaders that when they hear those key phrases, they need to sit up. They need to really
Mhm.
think about what's being said around them. Because the worst thing you can have is someone biased against you in the workplace. And that is second only to someone in a position of power and authority over you that is biased in the workplace. You can have an issue with someone, it can be resolved, and you can have an issue with that same person again. That's
Mhm.
a pattern of behavior. You've got to document what goes on in the workplace.
That is so good. And again, that is going to help our ladies. We are beginning our Stiletto Talks Unmuted series, where we're going to help women not only define certain things that they need in the workspace to help them feel safe, and that they can communicate those things effectively, but also how to maintain their peace in these workplaces. And like you said, it's better to document than to just crash on out.
Yes.
Um,
And also, when you are hearing people talk about their mental health at work and how it's being impacted, mental health is healthcare.
mhm,
Healthcare is medical. You have protections if you and your medical provider have made a decision that your mental health is actually being negatively impacted. There
mhm.
is Family Medical Leave Act. There is short-term and long-term disability. There are resources, and we don't avail ourselves of those like we should. If you are having a medical crisis and requiring medical intervention, you need to have those conversations. Now, I can't tell you if you need them or not, and you can't tell yourself if you need them or not, but that discussion with your healthcare provider is very important.
I love that you brought that up because also people are just over it. We're just, we just, there's so much going on right now, right? We're just intaking so much information. But I love the fact that you talked about how we respond or how we hear, how we learn. And how we process and take care of ourselves is ultimately going to be for our betterment and for our, that's true empowerment. Not always, I got you together, I gave you a read. You may have read them, you may have won the word of wars, but did you meet the word of peace? Your word of strategic moves, your word of, like you said, building social capital. And that's what I want to capitalize on. So you talked about the social capital that, like, hey, I know I can say what I got to say. I have the work experience, this and that. I'm gonna say what I got to say and just move on, if I need to another workspace. But what strategy should leaders and employees rather, especially for those of us who are dualpreneurs, maybe you're in the workspace and you have your own business, and you need to navigate in both spaces to keep maintain your trust and your connection. Because some
Mhm.
people go back into the workspace, give up the business, you'll have no
Yes.
other connections, and then you lose said job or something happens, and now you don't have the connections over here too. Now you're really depressed that you gave up one for the other when they can balance both. It's just about having that support or understanding how they can do so. But navigating that social capital and trust, and making sure that you got somebody that you built a network with, whether it's
Mhm.
LinkedIn, whether it's some other professional sites that you can maintain that social capital, that many people don't even think about when this stuff happens. Again, they think social media is their social capital when that is not necessarily so for the workspace.
Yeah. So I'm real big on if you are attacking, if that's the situation you find yourself in, you want to read, you want to respond, you attack the institution or the practice, not the person.
Mm-hmm.
You need people. And the worst person could still be the best person on the right day. If you are going to talk specifically about a person, you have to make sure that you're okay if that person were to call 100 businesses and talk bad about you. Do you have enough work product to counteract that? And most people don't. Most people don't. So you read your friends, you read somebody raggedy off the street that you, whatever the situation is. Workplace is not for the read. Workplace is not for the clapback. The workplace is not for the I'm gonna get justice. There's not justice in the workplace. It doesn't look like what it feels like. One of the things Martin Luther King figured out and did very well is he understood you cannot alienate and advance at the same time, even when you want to. So go ahead and get on photo booth or your iPhone or whatever Samsung, whoever has what, and record all the nastiness you want to say. Just don't send it nowhere.
Right.
You can get it out, but don't send it anywhere. So what I say to leaders is when you have that squeaky wheel in your organization, that is actually your most valuable person. And with no disrespect intended, the reason that the challenger had that unfortunate outcome is because nobody spoke up. It was group think. It's documented. It's not my opinion. That is what it actually was. That
Mm-hmm.
squeaky wheel is the biggest asset you have. That squeaky wheel is the one that's going to keep you from only looking at the horizon and missing the pile of poop right at your feet.
Right.
And you have to appreciate that person. Also, if you're going to be the squeaky wheel, you can't squeak all the time. You got a squeaky wheel in your car that squeaks all the time, you get rid of it. You have one that just squeaks when you go over bumps, you take it in for service. So you have to figure out what employee you want to be, and more importantly, what employee you can afford to be. But did that answer your question?
That answered so much and then some to spare. I love. Something that you talked about is about understanding who you are again in your career. And so, is there one story from your career that guides your decisions today?
Yeah, I'll tell you about a story I'm not as proud of. Um, I had an issue with a senior leader. I complained to HR about it. They offered me a shiny other job under a black manager. I dropped the case and took the job. Fast forward, that same person, that same senior leader I had an issue was within elevated, like 4 levels up. And now I get to report to them. It didn't matter how many assurances you gave me that everything was going to be okay because everything hadn't been okay. So as I proceed down the path, I'm like, yeah, everything's going to be okay. They've said everything's okay. Everything is okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We're okay. Great. We're okay. Yeah, let a couple years go by. People have long memories.
Mm-hmm.
People have long memories and they may not retaliate against you in the moment, but they're getting to it just like you would get to it, right? Like human nature is. And so The story that I'm not proud of is that I let it go because I settled for the quick fix. And I'm not proud of that because it allowed other people to continue to be victimized. It allowed a pattern and practice to continue. It allowed me to compromise my ethics and my integrity for a short-term win. It allowed me to be re-victimized. So what I say is, if you can't afford to speak up, don't. And if you have to settle, settle. But don't settle thinking that you've won. And don't settle thinking that it won't come back around. And don't settle thinking that because you have a big heart and have forgiven and moved on, that everybody else has. Because they'll probably prove you wrong.
Because again, that memory is long. That
Long.
memory is long. And it does come back sometimes, and we just have to be prepared.
Yes.
So in your case, you're a really strong leader, but
Thank
you
you.
also have the ability to be really vulnerable and share a lot of truth. And being around you for the time that I have been, I've seen you do both sides, and you can do them, not necessarily, I wouldn't say seamlessly, because we're all human. There are times we
Yes.
do it better than others, but you do it really well. But I know that, I'm sure in your leadership practices, you share a lot of your personal stories in your leadership, right?
Yes.
So I guess my question would be, how do you balance your vulnerability and your authority when sharing those personal stories? Because you're sharing it to show connectivity, but you're not trying to do it to demean your authority, to lower your authority, which some
Um,
people do. They talk themselves right on out of a position.
they do. They do. And that's a great question. Probably one of the most thoughtful questions I've had with all the podcasts I've done. Um, my authority doesn't come from my superiority to anyone. That's where leaders get it wrong. They think that they have to be better than in order to lead. Michael Jordan, does everybody still remember who he is? Who the Kobe Bryant? Is that what's the Carmelo Anthony? I don't know who the hip players are these days, but they all had a coach that didn't play better than them. I don't have to be better than you. So when your authority isn't based on your arrogance, you can be vulnerable. Now, if you've built up a system where the reason that you are the leader is because you're better than, brighter than, sharper than, smarter than, and superior, well, then you can't be vulnerable now, can you? Which means nobody else can be, which means people aren't being truthful. And if people are taking up even 10% of their energy hiding who they are or masking who they are, now you're only getting 90% of a person and you're paying a full salary. So I
That's
do
deep.
my best to lead with curiosity. With full disclosure, you might be better at this than me. Thank you for allowing me to sit in. You might actually have a better answer than me, solution than me. You may even be more qualified and talented and skilled than I am.
Right.
Yet I'm still confident enough to be okay with that, and I can still lead you. I can still coach you. I can still direct you. Not in spite of, but because of the fact that you're better than me. And watch how we're going to succeed. My job is not dependent on your failure or your poor performance. But we've all had those managers that know exactly when it's about to roll downhill who they throw under the bus. I'm the first one to take accountability. You won't find, and I stand on this, you will not find someone more willing to stand up for the people that report to them or are coached by them than me. And I
Hmm.
have no problem saying that without qualification, because the first one to take the hit will be me if I am the one advising you. And that's how you build trust. That's why it
Right.
doesn't matter if you're vulnerable. That's where your story becomes your truth. Yes, I'm all of those things. And now call me doctor. And let's move forward.
That part. I love it. So, as a practical takeaway, Dr. V,
Yes.
leaders listening right now, because again, this is the time of year and most of us are being reflective. We're slowing down enough to intake all that and process all that has happened to us this year. Most people have about 10,000 journals without looking in the other one. They're already moved on to the next year and sticking notes and vision boards. They deep.
Yes.
What is one step? Because sometimes that first step determines how everything else is going to go, right?
Yeah.
What's one practical step that you feel like we can all take to begin crafting authentic stories that inspire action? Not that inspire, no hashtag,
Yeah.
Action, because a lot of us, we have plenty talk. We don't have no action.
Yeah.
We want to
Yeah.
do. We I call it the I'ma do spirit. I'ma do it. I'ma do it. I'ma do it. But you're not doing it. You're not doing it. The action part is not there. And so, what can we do? What's one thing we can do to make sure that our authentic stories, we're crafting those stories, even for ourselves, to
Yeah.
help inspire action, action towards the doing, the
Yeah.
actual doing of improvement, or the actual doing towards getting a better job, or the actual doing that, yes, you need to fold them clothes up today, y'all. You go back to work
Mm.
tomorrow. Of the actual doing.
To every leader out there, I would make one simple action oriented request: stop writing other people's performance reviews about the skills you lack. And what I mean by that is leaders need to stop saying, people don't know how to take you. That's not about me, that's about other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People have a hard time collaborating with you. That's not about me. Again, that's about you, your inability to process. Or I don't really understand how you're programmed. Like, stop writing performance reviews that highlight your lack of skill. If you need me to be more collaborative, then simply say, I would like to see you partner with people on 4 projects this upcoming year. And I would like you to get a 90% review from those people that they enjoyed working with you and want to work with you again. Now, that's about me.
Yes.
So that's what I'd like the leaders to do. Personally, I would like everyone to sit back and really take stock, because a year is going to pass, whether you're
Mm-hmm.
sitting on the couch and there's clothes beside you, or you're standing up going for a walk and all the clothes are folded. What do you want to be different a year from now? Because the time will pass, the weariness will come, the busyness will come. The only reason I have 4 degrees in my 40s is because I said, when 4 years passes, what do I want to be different? I'd like to have a degree. Okay.
Same.
When two
Same.
years pass, what do I want to be different? I'd like to have another degree. Great. Okay. Time is passing. What do you want to be different? Because to position yourself for the next step or next iteration, something has to be different now. And then I'd say, when it comes to storytelling, really check in with those around you. Because if you,
Mm-hmm.
I wish somebody would have told me this. Oh my gosh, deep breath. If someone would have actually said to me, if you can't tell the truth to the people you're around, get around some other people.
Hmm.
If I can't show up and say, I am a former single mom, stripper, felon who's been on food stamps and multiple failed marriages, and still have people want to break bread with me, I need to move
Like
around.
me.
Like you, absolutely, like you, and thank you. You need to move around.
Right.
And people spend so much time on, like, is this a good person or a bad person? Or is this somebody I want to be like? Or are they a good influence or a bad influence? That's just table stakes. If you can't tell your truth, move around, because the power comes from your ability to practice how you tell your story with support. Why did I have to wait 48 years to whisper out loud to someone I was romantically interested in what my truth was? Why did I settle? I mean, I know why I did, but why did I settle for people I couldn't be authentic with? And this is not the, well, that's my attitude. I'm going to have the attitude I want to have, and you can't tell me anything. This
Right.
is the deepest parts of you. If the only time you can reveal your true self is when you're whispering into the ear of the pastor during church service when there's a call to the altar, you need better friends. So go get
That
them.
part. That part. See, it's not just me. Yeah, see, when I said, I comes on with it, but Team Red, we're Team Red. That's an
Team
insider
Red.
joke. We're insider joke. Team
Yes.
Red, we
And if you,
are true type A, right? So we
true
get
type
it.
A. And if the saints look at you side-eyed in the church that you're in, find another church. If the
And that
saints cross
too.
the street, if they're afraid to have you around their husband, and you know you don't have a spirit of a Jezebel, you just happen to be a stripper in your former 20 years ago that
Right.
their husbands probably went to. Come on. Come on. Don't get me started on, look, I used to work in a church. I expect it to be a hospital for souls, but we need to do better as a community.
I love that you said that. I think that for many of us, one thing, it starts with, for us, owning who we are so that we know to not just show up in spaces that we are not going to be loved in. When
Yes.
you know that, hey, I see that you know my truth and I see how you move and I see you, let me move around you. I think that empowers us so much. And also, it's really true. The quality of the people are that you're around is so much better than the quantity of people.
Mm-hmm.
Often people are around a lot of folks that they can't be real with. They're just in each other's space. And it
Yes.
is so I don't know how they do it.
I,
I get to be my
I know.
regular self. I get to be my regular self, but I know that it's stressful, and I know
It's
that they don't
stressful.
have no peace. And as you get older, and you get over here with Dr. V and I over here in Auntie Land, we have peace. We've been there,
Yes.
done that, got the T-shirt, trophy, and the plaque. We don't care. We just don't care. And I think that taking ownership of yes, yes, yeah, yep,
Yeah.
when you take that, you pull that rug from under some, it will help you identify who really has your back, and not on your back, who's really belongs in your circle at
Yes.
this particular moment.
Yes.
And I think that all of those points, like you said, especially when we have our home life right, it translates over into the things we want. Most
Yeah.
Black women want to be in leadership, whether it's having their own business, maybe it's not on their job, maybe they want to have just their own business and then they're still working. Many have these leadership positions at work. Maybe they've lost their leadership position due to some of the changes in the workplace, but then they may go
Targeting.
right, and then they may
Targeting. Mm-hmm.
targeting too, and
Mm-hmm.
then they go to a new space, but they still may be recognized like, hey, that's a leader, because it doesn't change just because you switch places. Most people know one when they see one.
Yes.
So, but they still may need training, and that's where you come in. If people want to extend their conversation with you, they say, you know what, I need Dr. V to help me get my stuff together, get my truth together in 2026. I'm moving forward. What is, how do they reach you?
Yeah. Number one, I have a lot of content on YouTube, and
Hmm.
that's I mean, that's free, right? The second thing is I'm very active on LinkedIn, and if you email me, message me, I actually do respond. I am happy to take out 15 minutes for somebody. I'm happy to take out another 15 minutes if you earn that previous 15 minutes. You know, there's nothing more lonely than being surrounded by a lot of people and nobody knowing you. And that's one thing I really don't want to happen. So if you have questions, if there's something you want to talk through, I'm not a lawyer. I do not dispense legal advice. But I'm happy to respond to you on LinkedIn. And I realize I say that to a wide audience now, but reach out because it makes no sense for me to go through things if it's not to share and not to help you avoid a hot stove. You know, my books are really inexpensive on a digital download. Like that's not happenstance. That's by design. You can't afford it. Email me, drvboykin@gmail. I will send you a digital copy. I want people to have an easier life than what I had. And that's just the truth of it.
I love the fact that you are paying it forward. And again, Dr. V, thank you for sharing your truth, your honesty, your transparency, not only in your personal life, but your pivots, your triumphs, and your willingness to give back. Everybody does not want to do that. They often want to move forward and they say that looking back may necessarily be a bad thing. And you're not taking baggage with you either. So it's not considered baggage. You took the lesson and you're
Yes.
paying, that lesson is paying dividends through your leadership style, through your classes, through business, through as a fellow thought leader in leadership communities, organizational leadership, and we thank you for that honesty. Most people are looking for authentic storytellers. Some people, like you said, often tell a story that's not really their story, but they're using that story to have said position to talk and hopefully get a check at the end. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, what happens is most people recognize that the story is not real and it
Yes.
doesn't resonate and it doesn't inspire change. And what we hope here at the Stiletto Talks is that what Dr. V shared with you will indeed inspire change. If you did not hear her email address, is Dr. V Boykin, Boykin @gmail.com. Please make sure you get up with her. She's also very easy to find on LinkedIn and YouTube. I challenge you to hear her stories of transparency and truth. She's out there. And so she's out there in leadership. She's out there in storytelling. And I will go on to and probably add on, not just because I know her personally, she is a magnificent storyteller that can also make it relatable to you, because just because someone have a story, they don't know how to bring the whole thing full circle sometimes too. And so she's really great at storytelling, and we thank you, Dr. V, for again just sharing so much with us today. Do you have any closing thoughts that you would like to share with us?
I'd like to thank you for working with children because I know I can't do it. I'd like to I, I'd like to thank everyone that's grappling with how to share their truth or not be embarrassed by their past or present. The fact that you're in the struggle and you're even examining it is brave, and it's brave enough if it goes no
Mhm.
further. And I'd like to encourage women that have, for many different reasons, had to hide behind men to get ahead, to not be afraid to step out into the spotlight themselves because you
Mhm.
can and you deserve to. And for every woman that is hiding behind or a facade, I see you too, and it's okay. It's all okay. We're all doing the best that we can in the moment that we're in, and that's all that's required.
Thank you so much. And again, you can find the Stiletto Talks podcast everywhere from Pandora, Amazon, we're everywhere. iTunes, we are everywhere now. And that's all because of you. Thank you so much for listening to us. My name again is Paula Johnson Hutchinson. I'm the CEO and founder of the Stiletto Talks. And again, our primary purpose is to create collaborative safe spaces for women of color. We hope and are encouraged by the fact that we know that this conversation will truly impact someone. And again, and that is our primary goal. So thank you.
Thank you.